Hey there, welcome to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. All right, I have another Criterion Collection review for you. This is another 4K Ultra HD review of a Criterion release. In this case, this is a new addition in the Criterion Collection. So, unlike the Blood Simple review, where that is a 4K upgrade of an existing Blu ray in the Criterion Collection, this is a new title in the collection altogether. It's getting a new spine number. Spine number 1202 is the 1996 film from director John Sayles, and it is Lone Star. This is the 1996 film from independent filmmaker John Sayles, and it stars Chris Cooper and Elizabeth Pena. So, in this review, I want to share with you what I think about this movie, Lone Star, what I think about how it looks on 4K Ultra HD, the special features, and whether or not this is a title you should consider picking up and adding to your collection. So, is point to it, is Lone Star worth picking up and adding to your collection? Let's talk about it on the other side of this. All right, let's talk about Lone Star. This is a film that I've seen for the very first time this past week when it came to my doorstep. I popped it in the player. It took me a couple of nights to finish sort of going through it, but I really enjoyed this film. I'll just tell you that straight up. I mean, this film tells a very fascinating story about a sheriff in a Texas county, Rio County. He is a sheriff played by Chris Cooper, and he is dealing with the ghosts of his past in terms of his father was a former sheriff. Father is played by Matthew McConaughey. So you do see a young Matthew McConaughey in this film, as well as Chris Christopherson, who plays another sheriff in this same area who was an evil sheriff. So you have these sheriffs from the past, their impact on life in the present with Chris Cooper. And then you have a love dynamic there with Chris Cooper's character and Elizabeth Pena and the complexities that are involved there and the connection to events from the past all coming together in this very fascinating story. You have some racial dynamics, some social justice issues that are at play as well. And it all makes for a very fascinating story, to say the least. So, on the back of the Criterion case, it says, a keen observer of America's social fabric. Writer director John Sayles uncovers the haunted past buried beneath a small Texas border town in this sprawling neo Western mystery. The mystery of this dead skeleton or this skeleton found out in this Texas county. And Chris Cooper's character is now investigating who is this character, who is this person that was found, and what were the events that led to their murder. Very interesting. So, when a skeleton is discovered in the desert, lawman Sam Deeds, Chris Cooper, son of a legendary local sheriff, begins an investigation that will have profound implications both for him personally and for all of Rio County, a place still reckoning with history of racial violence. Sayles' masterful film, novelistic in its intricacy and featuring a brilliant ensemble cast, including Joe Morton, Elizabeth Pena, and Chris Christopherson, as well as Matthew McConaughey, and you also have Frances McDormand appearing here as well, quietly subverts national myth making and lays bare the fault lines of life at the border. So, very nice summary here of this film. It's a very fascinating film that deals with all of those intricacies of race and culture, the past and the present. I think it's just told very, very well by director John Sayles. John Sayles wrote this film and he also directed it, and I think he did a really nice job. So you're dealing with this sheriff who is played by Chris Cooper, who's dealing with the ghosts of the past. And I think one of the great storytelling techniques that John Sayles applies in this film is moving from the present to the past and back to the present, in the way that he transitions from one scene to the next within the same setting, but transitions you from the present to the past and back to the present in that same scene, whether it's an interior scene and you're focused on a particular object and you're going from the present to the past in it, or an exterior scene where you're on a lake and you have a character who's in the present and the camera moves over to the other side and you see another character, but it's 30 years in the past. I just think he did a really nice job of transitioning from those different time periods in telling this story. So I think he did a great job. I think Chris Cooper and Elizabeth Pena shined in their roles. Of course, Chris Cooper is dealing with the ghosts of the past and trying to reconcile his father's past and what kind of man he was. You have Chris Christopherson who played this evil sheriff and the dynamics between those men. But then you also have his relationship with Elizabeth Pena's character Pilar in this film and the complexities that are involved in that relationship and the connections between all of it that come together and unfold beautifully in this film. And I'm being intentionally vague because I don't want to spoil any of it, but just know that this is a very intricate story with a lot of connections, a lot of implications that come together in very interesting ways for all of these characters. This is a great example of being in a particular setting in the present, but there's mysteries and secrets of the past that come out and come to fruition as the story progresses. And I think the story does a really nice job of laying that out. Of course, Elizabeth Pena, they're just remarkable. Their story of love, in that they were like high school sweethearts. They ended up marrying other people, and their lives went in different directions. But then those marriages didn't work out either through divorce or, in one case, or death in the other case. And so you have Chris Cooper, who divorced his wife, he's now available. You have Elizabeth Pena, whose husband was murdered, and now they have the opportunity to come together again. But should they come together? Is it the right thing? Are there other forces at play that would say they shouldn't be together? These are some of the interesting things that are explored in this film, and I really enjoyed watching it. You also have the dynamic of Joe Morton's character. He is a officer, commanding officer of this military unit, of this base that's in the area. And he and his father are a bit estranged. His father owned a local nightclub, and there's some racial injustices that have happened with that. And so you have that storyline going on, and there's the connection between Joe Morton's storyline and the Chris Cooper storyline. Even though Joe Morton and Chris Cooper don't appear on screen together, their stories do intersect at a very important point, and that's part of the narrative of this story as well. So it's a very interesting how their storylines are kind of going parallel in this movie, and I really enjoyed that. And it was just a great example of John Sayles' storytelling techniques. The performances are strong all the way around, and I think the story is well told. And I think it's part of what makes Lone Star a really, really good movie. This is a film I need to definitely let marinate for a while within my mind, but then come back to it because there's aspects of it that I want to explore a little bit more that I didn't really get the fullness of on my first couple of times sort of viewing this film. So definitely want to revisit this bad boy sometime soon. So the film, high marks of the film, very well written, very well directed by John Sayles, and very nicely acted by Chris Cooper, Elizabeth Pena, and all of the actors. Matthew McConaughey as a very young sheriff, 30 to 40 years in the past. This is the father of Chris Cooper's character, so you see a young McConaughey in this film. Chris Christopherson. I think everybody did a fantastic job. Joe Morton, he is always good, and he is really good in this as well. So very strong performances of a very nice movie. Now, how does this movie look on 4K Ultra HD? I think Lone Star looks fantastic on 4K Ultra HD. I mean, the 4K detail is very nice. It's a very clean, crisp looking image, beautifully restored. They restored this on 4K from the original camera negative. So they did a 4K scan from the original camera negative, did a full restoration, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's nice depth and clarity in the image. It's clean, it's stable, nice detail. The Dolby Vision grade gives a very nice dynamic range. You have nice blacks, you have bright whites. The colors come across really nice and rich. It's not overly vivid from the color standpoint, but they're nice and rich. And the detail and everything within the image presents a very, very bold 4K Ultra HD image. It looks fantastic. This is a film that is 28 years old now, and it looks absolutely fantastic with this new restoration. Again, it's from the original camera negative, and that usually makes for the best source possible. And the 4K picture for Lone Star looks absolutely phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. I didn't get a chance to see how the Blu-ray looks, but considering that that Blu-ray is using the same 4K digital restoration, but just down sample to, or whatever the term is, to 1080p, it's not going to have the same level of detail as the 4K image. It's also got standard dynamic range versus HDR. So that's going to be a little bit of a difference as well. But overall, you're going to get a very strong image, very likely on that Blu-ray, given that it's using that same 4K restoration that's been put on the 4K disc. So overall, very nicely presented. In terms of the audio, it is a 2.0 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack, and it sounded just fine. I watched it on the 4K TV upstairs, not this television here. So I don't have a fancy audio setup on that TV upstairs other than the TV audio, but it sounded perfectly fine, and I was very satisfied with that audio presentation. I would imagine on a true surround system, you would get a little bit more out of it, but overall, I was very pleased with the sound presentation coming out of that Sony TV upstairs. So presentation wise, from a video and audio standpoint, high marks. That is definitely, I think, one of the highlights of this release is just how nice it looks on 4K Ultra HD, in addition to the story. Now, what is a little bit on the light side with this release is the special features. Now, you do get 2 special features, so you're not getting a lot, but it's a good example of quality over quantity in that both of these features are absolutely excellent and highly recommended. So you get 2 new conversations. So you get one conversation with John Sayles, and filmmaker Gregory Nava, which is a great conversation between 2 independent filmmakers. So they share their experiences as independent filmmakers, and that is definitely worth watching. So it's a very good conversation that I highly recommend. And then you also get a new interview with Dryberg, who was the director of cinematography for this film. So that's also an excellent discussion or interview with him. So those are your 2 special features. So not much in the way of supplements, but they're both very excellent ones and both worth checking out. You also get this essay, Past is Present, from Domino Rene Perez, which that title is very indicative of what this film is about the past and the present and how they connect with one another. You see a young McConaughey here. You see Chris Cooper, Elizabeth Pena. So very nice. Joe Morton as well. Yeah, Joe Morton. So excellent, excellent cast. I think they all did a phenomenal job. The film is great. The presentation on 4K is fantastic. And the special features, though light, the ones that are on here are excellent and definitely worth going through. I wish they had done a little bit more in the way of special features. So overall, I would say that this release is recommended, but definitely steer you towards a 50% off sale because the supplements are a bit light on this. But if you get it at 50% off, you're getting a great deal for a movie that's fantastic, that looks great on 4K Ultra HD. And if you decide to go with the Blu-ray, you're very likely getting a strong looking presentation as well because it's using that same 4K restoration. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of Lone Star from John Sayles? What do you think of this film? Have you seen it? Have you seen other films from John Sayles, including this other title in the collection called Madawan? This is spy number 999 in the collection. This also was directed by John Sayles, and this stars Chris Cooper as well in Chris Cooper's film debut. So this is a film from 1987. It is a period piece. It covers the true story of 1920s West Virginia and a real life event that occurred at that time, some atrocities. Just a really fascinating film that I highly recommend. I have not seen it in a long time, but it's one that I would definitely recommend. It's spy number 999, It is Matawan from John Sayles. But let me know what you think about that film as well as Lone Star and any other films from John Sayles. And what are some of your favorite performances from Chris Cooper and Elizabeth Pena? Let me know that in the comment section below as well. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Peace.